We are Sofa Slackers, and today we are doing a head-to-head against the two most popular pedals that you can find right now.
Today we're going to be looking at the Juila and the Boss CE-2 waza version.
Yes, the Boss CE-2 waza edition is actually a replica of the CE-1 that came out in the late 70s, and then the CE-2 that came out in the 80s.
Which is the better of the two, in my opinion.
I believe that the CE-2 has a bit more of a dialed-in tone. The CE-1 is almost flange-like, but you can get a lot of lush tones out of that pedal. The CE-2 used by a lot of 80s bands such as the Smiths, The Cure,
Slow Dive.
I
know that you know, a lot of our favorite guitarists, artists still use it today. You got Mac DeMarco, Kevin Parker, and like just, you know, the list goes on. That's pretty a generic shout out, but the list goes on.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then, you know, for the Juila, some of our favorite artists use it. We got Vacations from Australia. Shout out to them. Big inspiration for our music, which you can check out, by the way.
Yeah.
Taverns
Band.
Pelly Jean. It's all out there right now. Go take a look.
We use both pedals. Actually, the CE-2 waza edition is my daily driver chorus pedal, whereas Gabe's Juila is his go-to chorus pedal. Actually, the Julia that's on his board right now is my old Julia pedal. Gabe, what happened to your old Julia pedal again?
We named a song after my broken Julia pedal. I fried it. I plugged in a 12-volt into it, like a 12-volt AC adapter, you know, one of those power things, and it fried the circuit. Just it literally sizzled too. I heard it, and it like it made like a wheeze. It was like, and then
it's funny because there's a light too.
Yeah, and the light went out. It like I literally saw it die, and it like just it shattered me in two. And I had to buy Claudio's. He offered me a pretty good deal on it for some miscellaneous things, and it was
Talk
great,
about miscellaneous.
Talk about miscellaneous things. I made these beautiful margaritas for us to enjoy today while we go over these pedals for you.
Exactly.
So,
the main attraction, I think, between these two pedals,
I think, you know, really quick, passion fruit margarita is the way to go if you're going to talk about pedals.
Exactly.
I
agree.
All right, I wrote down a little outline for us to kind of go over.
Yeah, between all the pedals that we are reviewing. So here's my thing. The CE-2, between the two pedals, I think it's an easier pedal to use. Anytime I use it, especially when I'm using the CE-2 setting, I can dial in the depth knob and the rate knob and essentially get whatever tone I want.
Oh, you did it. I was trying to help.
And I can pretty much dial into any tone I want, and it just sounds amazing all the time.
But let's start. Why are we discussing these pedals?
I think they're important because when I used to own the Julia pedal, I never used a chorus. And the reason why is on my pedal board, I have a separated vibrato pedal that I only use for vibrato purposes, and then my CE-2, which I only use for chorus. And the reason why is because for certain songs, I just wanted the liberty of clicking between whichever sound I wanted, whether that was vibrato or chorus. Obviously, if you're trying to do vibrato on the Julia, it's not that hard to dial in. You just go all the way right, you know, on that blend knob, which you can blend the chorus, the vibrato, and your dry signal. You go all the way towards the right, and essentially you can get that full vibrato sound, which is a nice feature to have. And so I really enjoyed the vibrato that I got from the Julia, not so much the CE-2, but I preferred the chorus on the CE-2.
let's start off with just how much they are. So I checked reverb though, and I think this is important because especially if you're trying to build a board or replace pedals that you don't want or, you know, are trying to, you know, exchange, it's important to also take into account how much it costs. So as of right now, as of time of recording, the Julia is $125, and that's only because the version 2 came out. When we bought our Julias, I think they were like $200.
Question, did they discontinue the version 1? Are they still selling it brand new?
I don't know if they're selling it brand new. I assume that they're not, because that would make no sense as a business model. Like, you're going to want to promote.
So what's
your
the biggest difference between the
stuff.
two pedals?
As I know they did a version 2, and then they did like an updated version 2. I only remember the first version where it pretty much was the same as the Julia version 1, but they just had stereo options for it. I'd have to look into the updated and newest Julia, but they also changed the artwork, and I like the artwork way more.
I actually have to agree
on the original Julia. It's like it's so beautiful.
Yeah,
it's
so such a
cool.
pretty design.
And it fits with like the vibe, cause for me, chorus gives me the feeling like of water flowing through your guitar.
Yeah.
It's like if you could like plug one end of your 1/4 inch into a jug of water and then one out, I'd be like, that's what chorus is. It's like this wavy.
And that's why you mix chorus with a lot of reverb and delay. I think on both of our amps actually we're running a bit of reverb. It's kind of...
Before we finish, the Boss is 175. The Boss Wazacraft version is 175. That's the Wazacraft, but I know that the original CE2s, I checked, dude, they're going for 220.
Yeah.
Like, that's absurd.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that is that vintage type of niche that people want to get those old pedals. They believe that the sound is a bit better. I would always recommend...
Which is a topic for another day, if vintage stuff is really better or not.
Yeah, well, I think for all what you get within the Wazacraft, especially getting an option to use a CE-1, and also the circuitry for the vibrato option as well is a really cool feature that you wouldn't get in the original model, obviously. And I also know that there's a model that goes for even more with the CE-2, which is the Japanese version.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think the difference is that it has a black knob. Correct me if I'm wrong. It has a black...
I don't know anything about it.
It's not a black knob. It's a... So you know what you use to tighten? Right here on the side. Oh, right here in the front.
Yeah.
So it's, you see how that's silver? Well, on the Japanese version, it's black rubber. And that... It goes for way more. And also has a label in the back.
If it's the Japanese version, is it just then a traditional Boss pedal at that point?
Right?
Because like mine have black knobs on the front, and it's just Boss, and Boss is a Japanese company, so the Wazacraft is partnered with Wazacraft. So is that like a thing?
Yeah. So essentially, some Boss pedals aren't actually made in Japan. They're manufactured somewhere else.
Well, yeah, that's typical.
Yeah. So the Wazacraft was, you know, it's a higher end Boss pedal, so it was manufactured in Japan. And those past pedals were also manufactured in Japan.
So on the next point that I got, let's just dive straight into the strengths and weaknesses of each pedal.
Yeah.
I guess before we get into that, like, why should you get a chorus? Why should you get a vibrato? I mean, they're universal for every genre. Like,
I think it's just
applicable.
Awesome. Well, here's the thing is that I even think just a tiny bit of vibrato or a tiny bit of chorus can go a long way of bringing some, I don't know, different tones, you know, kind of adding that modulation. I think it's the most common modulation, most usable modulation. You wouldn't see a lot of people using a phaser, because phaser, I believe for me at least, I use it only in certain applications. Chorus you can use in a lot more type of situations, you know, using that clean tone. A lot of acoustic players also use chorus onto their acoustic.
That's another thing, like, into the strengths of the CE2 is that the chorus in the CE2 is so lush, it like really coats an acoustic guitar well, while like the Julia, and this is one of my criticisms of it, it's a little more metallic to me. So going over strings on a steel acoustic guitar.
So describe that actually, a metallic sound. Well, how would you describe that?
So I love the Julia, it's like my go-to pedal, but I definitely feel that it does have a metallic sound to it, like a 90s style chorus a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And so one of the strengths of the CE2 that I see is that, like you had mentioned, the chorus is applicable for so many scenarios where it's this lush, vibrant coloration on your guitar. And I sometimes feel like the Julia doesn't always color the guitar like I'm hoping.
It feels like there's almost a low cut in a way, right? It kind of feels like that's kind of how I feel.
Or like a high boost.
A high boost, yeah.
So it can make it a little harsh sometimes, a little trebly. But overall, like, I mean, you can dial it in. Like, I remember there was this one time, and we can do it in this video. Maybe it'll be in the segment before this, where, you know, we can match the chorus of the Julia almost identical to the CE-2.
Yeah.
It's more just about how long that takes. So going straight into the strengths of the Julia, tons of versatility. It has a way better vibrato circuit running through it than the CE-2 does, in my
100%.
opinion. But because of that versatility, you know, there's also, I think, there's 4 knobs versus 2, which is still a simple pedal. I mean, 4 knobs isn't crazy, but you have a blend knob, a lag knob, which I think just delays how long, like with chorus, you've got 2 waveforms running together, and it just kind of, chorus just delays that second waveform.
Yes.
That lag is how much it's getting delayed. So it's kind of almost like a wet, dry knob. Like, it's just how much of that modulation do you really want cutting through? Because then you also have the depth and the rate, which is just typical.
Very common.
Depth, how much of the wave, you know, how deep the wave is going, and then
And
the
the rate is
how
just
fast.
rapid. How rapid it
So
is.
with all those options, I do struggle a lot still. I mean, after like 3 or 4 years, I understand the pedal inside and out, and I'll still spend 10 minutes trying to get that chorus tone that I'm searching for. And sometimes I quit and I just opt for the vibrato, or mix the chorus and the vibrato, and like do like a hybrid, just because I personally have always wanted a CE-2, never had the budget, never like invested in it because of building everything else in the studio and whatnot. But the CE-2 is just, it's your go-to chorus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you want a good chorus and the best sounding chorus, I just say go straight for the CE-2.
I agree, and I think price point kind of is an important topic to get onto, because if you're on a budget, I think the Julia, especially if you want to kind of use that vibrato tone, that is the best investment you can make, because you'll get best of both worlds, essentially. You might not get the chorus tone that you want, however, you will get that vibrato tone that you want. And I think the chorus is really good still through
it's amazing.
Julia. Actually, through recording, you probably can't even tell the difference, I believe.
The average listener can't. I mean, I had a MXR, I had an MXR chorus pedal, and that was nothing in comparison to the Julia. I mean, the Julia is top 3 choruses you can probably get on the market. It's just, I think like the CE-2 really just has like a step above it, because it has a sound. Like, anytime I hear a chorus in a song, I'm like, that's either just an insane plugin or the CE-2. Yeah. There's like no in between.
Well, that lush sound that you're talking about, I get that a lot in the CE-2 setting that I use. And the CE-2 setting, the cool thing about it is that you can turn that rate knob all the way up, and it will still sound really cool. You would almost get kind of a vibrato tone, kind of that really warbly sound. The CE-1 setting, however, I will always opt for that when I want to get that very lush, almost flange-like tone. And I use that a lot, especially when someone tells me, hey, this song, I really want that chorus to shine. I will opt to use that setting, because you'll really hear that chorus. A lot of times when you use the CE-2, you'll hear that chorus tone, but you know, it will be a lot more subtle.
Yeah.
If you use the CE-1 setting, I believe that chorus tone is in, you know, the spotlight.
Yeah. I can see that as well. I think you made a good point earlier, though, about the difference between the 2 pedals, right? Because it's like, you can invest an extra $50 and pretty much get the industry standard for the best chorus you can buy.
Yeah.
But then you don't have vibrato. You do. I mean, it's usable, but I just don't know.
Let me just play the vibrato really quick, just for the listeners.
That's on the lowest rate, but turn down the depth.
All right,
maybe
I'll turn that down. All right, I put the depth to
12 o'clock.
12 o'clock. Let's see how that sounds. usable, but I don't know. I still don't get that same vibrato that I would get from that Julia, especially because you're able to really tune it in. Oh, just how warbly that is.
I think one of the things I noticed is like it has almost like a harsher tone to it, which like Mac DeMarco does a lot of in 2 especially, where it's this harshness to it, and it's almost like a good rock and roll tone too.
Oh
sometimes.
yeah,
like you can get some nasty.
If you put some distortion on that, man.
Well, like I mean, even just like something like like the stars keep on calling my name, like.
Especially when you really dig into it.
The way it rings out too, though, it has a depth to it that is like,
you really hear that warble. In comparison, just. Oh, it's not even on. Yeah, I was like,
that's not on.
And that's my issue.
That's the vibrato.
That's the vibrato. Almost sounds kind of chorus-like, right?
Right, and like let me show the difference between like, so you've got this vibrato.
And I think that's cool though, is because the rate isn't as much. I wish that you had a little bit more flexibility with the CE-2 vibrato.
But then this is the chorus on the Julia. Versus the vibrato. It completely rids the signal of any modulation that's going on other than the detuning of the original signal and that signal. One of the things I noticed, so like vibrato is just detuning your initial waveform, your straight signal, and chorus kind of modulates it. I just feel like the CE-1's vibrato, it just doesn't fully stop modulating. Like I know you know what I mean?
Rate though. The rate is too fast. You can't audibly hear that wave really modulating because it goes too fast. You know, it's almost that seasick type of vibrato, not really that vibrato that you would hear like that Mac DeMarco uses.
I mean,
in 2, where
also,
it's that slow rate.
Like the vibrato on here, you can do like really nice. You can get like some cool beachy tones too, where the vibrato really shines through, and sometimes that's like a better route for like certain beachy music or what you kind of imagine as like your quintessential indie beach rock. It's actually sometimes better suited with a vibrato.
Of course.
Like a high rate, low depth vibrato than something that's like a cracked out chorus, just because chorus is, that staple for
I think especially when you're doing fast riffs, I think the chorus is nice when you're doing things that are a little bit more held out, when you're just playing a chord. And sometimes when you're playing beach rock, you kind of want that warbly type of vibrato. I think if you're trying to get that really lush 80s tone, that very sparkly, lush type of chorus, that's when you want to really apply that type of modulation.
Yeah, the way that I differentiate the two for me is like, I play a lot of rhythm guitar. I only do rhythm guitar for taverns, and for that application, I'm like always on chorus because I like the lushness, I like the width it gives me.
Yeah.
And we'll do a different video later, but where we go over the Roland JC40's chorus that's built in, because that's really good, and I actually almost exclusively use that now. But like we have a song called Patience, and in that song I use like straight chorus.
Yeah.
And so now I've got the depth at about 3 o'clock and the rate at about 9 o'clock, and like for rhythm guitar, it's a really nice lushness. So let's play it.
And especially, hold on, let me turn up the rate. I like to use a CE-1 for this song, especially because you're using your chorus. I really want my chorus to kind of have even more lush, and kind of blend in with yours as well. So yeah, let's play the beginning.
that's what I use that for predominantly. I mean, I think even for Pelly Jean, I use a lot of chorus. Like, I do. I use a lot of chorus.
Do you use more chorus in Pelly Jean than you do in like in taverns in general? Would you say?
I'm trying to think.
Because you use vibrato and nervous duck, right?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, yeah.
I do use vibrato and nervous duck. I interchange it pretty well. I think for me, the main thing is like, for lead tones, I'm always mixing chorus and vibrato. For rhythm tones, it's normally just chorus.
Okay, yeah.
Because like when I did Pipe Dreams for Pelly Jean, like that was straight mixture of like vibrato and chorus. Well, how does it go? Yeah, so like
Wow.
I always use a lot of vibrato on the lead.
You know, it's funny.
I don't know why.
So when I played your live set, I actually put it on a really high chorus setting. And that's kind of how I interpreted it. I didn't know that you're actually kind of using a bit of a blend.
Yeah, I mean even for oh, this is a big thing too. Like Young Love, when I did Young Love,
when you're playing the intro, yeah.
Forget how it goes, and I'm also on the wrong. You gotta tune down.
Wait, it's not even this. Something like that.
I noticed vibrato goes really well stacked with overdrive. Really well stacked with overdrive. I think it cuts the signal through a mix really well because it boosts treble, and once again, I feel like a lot of times with the chorus it can take some of that punch out of your guitar, some of that pop, that smack, and that's also because you're kind of weakening the waveform's peaks because it's leveling out when you've got two kind of following each other rather than just detuning it
single
slightly. Right,
wave.
it'll pop out a little bit
I think
more.
it gets a bit busy too. When you're using the chorus with an overdrive, sometimes it will make your signal be a little bit too busy, and sometimes that's great. Trust me, I've heard a lot of people use chorus, like Tattle Fight. They're using chorus with distortion, and it sounds awesome. It sounds big. It sounds really cool. But that's usually, I feel like that's more for applications with bands who are using like held out chords or like something with more sustain. When you're using vibrato and a lot of heavy distortion and you're playing really fast licks, I think that's more applicable.
Hey guys, thanks for making it to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it or liked it, please give us a like, subscribe, and leave a comment in the comment section down below.
Yeah, let us know whichever pedal you prefer, if you own any of them, and overall thoughts on this video. Any other videos that you want in the future, please give us a suggestion in the comment section. And I think overall our thoughts, the Julia pedal, I think it's a better bang for your buck. You can get really good vibrato tones and chorus tones if you just take the time to dial them in. You have a lot of options and a lot of variety with that pedal. Your overall thoughts on the CE-2?
I think the CE-2 is your go-to chorus. If you've got the budget, if you're like really locked in on tone, you know what you want, you want that specified chorus tone, the CE-2 is the way to go. But if you're looking for that diversity, that variety, you should definitely go for the Julia because it just offers so much differentiation.
I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.
Peace.